starting a new turn. I rolled the weather. It's snow. That's going to be like mud, only in addition, because of the visibility issues, the modified initiative, let's see, the modified initiative die roll of an active leader is increased by 1. Yeah. Gotcha. I'm just making sure it does what they claim it does, and it does, in terms of effects. Okay. Now, I got some additional strength points, so now I have 3 infantry and 2 cav banked up. And I want to deploy these. Well, the hard question is where to drop them. It's either going to be, I guess, I can't give him to Mortier because he's old guard. I don't think I can drop anything there. Napoleon or Gerard. They're both in range. I count the 28 from here. Tell you the truth, this may be as well. I'll have to count that. I'll try to do that off. I doubt that it is because this is a long drop down. But I do have this road. Yeah, but this is a long drop down too. I was getting near the end here, so this probably is too much. Anyway. But the decision as to where to put it is going to be based on how many troops I have in that location. So for example, Napoleon, we've already looked at him a few times, but now he's down to 5. He's probably going to absorb some of these. 6, maybe all of them. 14, 17 strength points. And when I look at, and of course, you know, you could break forces off, but 17 strength points. When I look at the March attrition, 17 is not really one of my numerical barriers. In war games, you tend to find these little places where it always is better to be at this number than the next number, right? And that's what this is all about. So it looks like I can go up to 20. So I can take all 3 of those points. Now, unfortunately for me, oh no, Grouchy's got room. Okay. So, what do I have? Oh, 17 to 20. I can only take 3 points. Okay. So let's give Grouchy both cav. And then we'll take 1 infantry, which I'll give to the young guard here. And that means now I have to consider how many strength, and I probably don't want to allocate the strength points if I can't get them, you know, where I want them, right? Who the hell are these dudes? Wow. Maybe we should try to figure out how to get those guys moving. Major General Infantry 2, Infantry 1. What the hell do they have? There's strength point here. Major General Infantry 2 has a fair-sized little force. I should be getting that moving. Okay. Probably got bumped. Get some kind of commander in charge of that. The problem is, of course, the Allies could slice through that way, but I don't think if they're going through with any force, the Major General is going to help with that, even though what he's got. So I've got 3 strength points here that I could give to Gerard, it is. No? Yeah. Well, Gerard has 5, 9. He has 12, which is also not one of those barriers. I think 15 is the barrier. So we'll give him those 2 additional points. And they're both infantry. And that gets those out of the way. Now I got to figure out what to do with my commands. But yeah, I'm kind of interested in moving this guy. You know, it's so goofy because they should be in charge of the young guard. But with Napoleon up at the front, there's no real reason Napoleon can't take these units. He's got so much capacity, and send Ney off to go gather up forces. Ney's not terribly good. It's not like he's a great combat leader. He's not able to command a huge amount of stuff. He's okay. Right? I mean, he's not bad. MacDonald's better. And MacDonald did kind of... MacDonald's one of the guys who always has good ratings in these games. MacDonald did a kind of piss-poor job throughout this campaign. It seems funny to have him rated well for this particular game. I just counted out the dispatch distance here, and I'm just about exactly at 20. I'm exactly at 28 or 27 and a half. I'm not sure which. Going to here. Victor's out of range. This road is a little longer than this bit of highway, but the fact that there's a bridge here that's unblown, and that's a primary bridge because it's a primary river crossing. It's not the road that matters. Now, I believe, are they called primary rivers? Yeah, I hope so. I did spend a point to move him, but now I'm coming to this, you know, it's this constant conundrum. This is not a great position for the Allies, or for the coalition, or whatever, but it's also not necessarily an easy to attack position. I can't come at it straightforward because of the river line. So if what I can do is kind of screw with their ability to move further, maybe blow this bridge, although that might cause me more problems than solutions. A movement this way seems almost appealing. Almost. Try to knock out this kind of whatever's going on here, which includes the Prussian command center. Now, it's not that big a deal. I just keep pushing it around, but it's got to stay on primary roads, and unfortunately, it has to try to retreat towards its supply source, which was back here. So that's, I think I can concentrate down against, and this is threatening the Bohemian army supply source too, so I think I can do a good deal in that direction. So I'm going to probably spend for Marmont. He looks like he's important to get into the area. Anyway, I'll come back after I've done the movement. It really is a game where you agonize over at least I agonize over my movement choices. Because if you leave something open, and this reminds me of Lee versus Grant, which I had this similar problem with. If you leave something open, someone can get around behind you and just screw you. You know? So you have to be real careful. But unlike, what was the game where it really was pissing me off positioning-wise? It was really pissing me off in 6 days. Unlike in 6 days, I don't feel like I'm counting a certain number of hexes and positioning myself in a specific place in quite the same way. I feel like I'm trying to dominate real terrain in this one. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because the map's a little clearer. So I'm looking up the supply change rules because Marmont just displaced it again. And it's heading this way, I guess. But I can't figure out where else it would go. It's allowed to just fly. It doesn't get interfered with by enemy units, but where it would fly to is here, and there's a unit there. So I guess maybe it flies 5 more further. I'm not sure. So one thing I was wrong about, and this didn't come into effect, but while the center of operations is moving, you don't get any attrition benefit from it. Your army pretty much has to wait for that thing to move. And that's kind of a pain in the ass. Now, to change supply, I'm going to have to roll a 1 or a 2. So, yeah, I think it's flying. I think it's here. I think it lands here in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's back here. So to change the center of communications, I would have to declare that I'm doing that. And I got boned in my own turn, didn't I? Let's see if I got a change. Because I got boned in the French turn, I think. Did I? No, I got boned in my own turn. No, in the French turn. Okay, I was not able to change the center, so it's got to retreat towards the Silesian army's supply sources. I can't switch over to the Austrian. I should have started with the link to the Austrian immediately because I was kind of exposed in a stupid place. And this line of communications couldn't be protected. So now, as I move here, I can't do Victor. I'm going to have to use a die roll for him. I got to decide if I want to spend any points on anything here. Is there anything that's vital for me to move? And I'm really not sure what the answer is to that. All right, just about everybody's moved. Mortier moved across here. Blowing this bridge wouldn't do me any good. This is a secondary river. It really means almost nothing. It just slows traffic down a little bit. Napoleon's moving next to Blucher. Now this could mean one of two things. I can either blow the bridge. If I do that though, I'm opening up the possibility of Blucher reinforcing against Mortier, who is attacking the Sackville-Baggins over here. Austin-Sacken. On the other hand, Girard's down here, and I definitely want to blow this bridge. Now, that's a secondary road, primary river. I think it counts, well, if it's a secondary bridge, if it counts as secondary for the bridges, I automatically blow it. But I want to blow that because I do not want to face Gulai with Girard. This cuts all the communication routes back to here, except for this bridge. Well, and then we get to secondary river down here. But so it really threatens the Allied line of supply. And we successfully blow. There was a penalty for a unit across. I may not have even tried this, but what the hell. I certainly would have penalized myself for failure, so I'll allow, you know, the bridge to be blown just because I rolled. I believe there's a penalty of just 1. Yeah. Yeah, it's based on the river. That's what I thought. But, you know, a smaller road has a weaker bridge. So we got another bridge blown there. I took no attrition at all. Victor was unable to move. And now I want these guys here. And at this point, the Allies have to make their rolls for where they're, you know, for how they're going to react. Now we have snow. Should snow have affected initiative itself, or is it just the initiative comparison? It's got to be initiative itself, right? No, only the modified initiative die roll. This is important because it means normal initiative doesn't affect you. It can't. It can't. Because otherwise you wouldn't reduce the probability of being able to force march. By reducing the possibility that it's being able to force march. No, you would. That would be an effect. All right, well, yeah, it's modified only. Okay. Which means I have to make a couple of checks to see if either of these guys get away. And if they don't, then I have to think what I want to do, if I can do anything. The anything looks hard. Schwartzberg might be able to make it to here and screw with Mortier. But then I'm going even further from my my center of operations. And the battles. Mortier got his ass handed to him by Austin Sacken. He was outnumbered, attacking at 1-2 and affecting terrain. He got a 5-hex retreat. That could be huge, but with the bad weather, with the fact that Austin Sacken doesn't really like moving, he ended up not moving at all. He could have, I think, pursued 1 hex if he wanted to, but it looked better to try to hold the line with Blucher. But Blucher got hit with a 3-1 attack by Napoleon, essentially. 3-hex retreat. Napoleon could have followed up completely, gotten 3 points of damage, gotten another morale point over here, but Austin Sacken is in the way. Now, he can buzz through the zone of control on an advance after combat, but there's a line of communications you want to keep open here. And on the other hand, I've kind of got Austin Sacken bagged here. He's going to have a hard time. Of course, on the other side of things, there's a lot of Allied units which can move forward. Only problem is Schwartzberg, because of Girard's placement and blowing the bridge, Schwartzberg's actually at the edge of his communications, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Any further, and we're going to start taking heavy attrition because the damn Austrian wagon, unlike the French that goes out to 28, the Bohemian army only goes 14 movement points. So I'm not in a position to really take advantage of what's exposed here. I may have to. Just the fact that Napoleon's there. But you can see there's already a significant amount of stuff baked in to prevent the Austrians from being able, well, the Bohemian army as a whole, from being able to do much offensively here. I've got another problem. If I go off this way, my supply line is just screwed. Unless I can get Reed moving or something, which I can give him an order. But, yeah, it does not look good. It's messy. Let's just put it that way. It's complicated. So that's the end of the French turn, and that puts us over to the Allied turn. It looks like we're getting some reinforcements. I wonder if we had any French reinforcements now. I don't know what we're getting here. We'll see where they come in and how, what effect they may have. It's Wittgenstein, so it's stuff from the Bohemian army here. Wittgenstein and Barclay de Tolly, so some good shit coming in, probably coming in down here. That'll help protect my line. With the Allied forces coming in, here, and actually Wittgenstein's up here. My roll for administrative points got me none, so I'm still at 4. If I spend one, I go down a column, and it becomes almost impossible to move without taking big attrition. What I'm looking at, because of that, is I'm just going to rely on initiative, but that's not terribly good. I got to start backing Schwartzberg up and hope that I can cover this. Is this too dangerous? Yeah. And then I look here, and Wittgenstein wants to, push across here. Well, he doesn't have to roll and move as a single force. He could try to move Eugene or Gorchkov. There isn't a lot threatening this side, although there is Victor. But I do want to get on this side of the river because this road is my important communications link. So I figure somebody, And I'll do the same with Reed, break him up. Somebody will be able to move here if I break up my forces. Here, though, it's a lot more questionable. Schwarzburg, Guyon, Schwarzburg might be able to move. Maybe I'll take some of Württemberg's forces onto my own track. There's no real restriction as to what you put there. I can't do anything about these. They have to operate by initiative because they have no center of their army. And it's really looking ugly for the coalition here. An unforgiving game overall. Okay, so I got an initiative with Blucher, which maybe I should have waited on, but he's got a tough call. He can move about 3 hexes within my tolerance for attrition, you know, which, yeah, I could start my withdrawal here and be covering a possible Schwarzburg withdrawal as well, back towards his center of communication. Sounds good. Austin Sack cannot get out of here, though. Blucher doesn't have a very big force. He's down to 5 strength points. I don't know how much he's going to help Austin Sacken, who's still got a fairly big force. 6, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I probably know what Napoleon has at this point, which is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 19. This is enough to move at an odds shift. I'm going to move Blucher up to here. That's only 1 movement point. I'm on the 0 here, 1 movement point. I can do this because this is normal march without any risk. Of course, fighting Napoleon will be a risk. Now, I can't add I can add Schwarzburg because you can create a combined command. So if Blucher has enough command to take Schwarzburg under him, as well as Austin Sacken. So I've got 4 here. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sorry, I've got 9. 4, 8 more for Schwarzburg, or 4 more for Schwarzburg, and I got to take Württemberg as well. Well, I actually don't need both of them. Either one will do. Württemberg can be dispatched. So, what do we got here? I can do it. And I can take Schwarzburg under me. Could I take Württemberg? I don't want to risk Württemberg. So yeah, I can bring those extra forces. This is risking some command, some attrition. But I think it's vital here to try to knock Napoleon back across the river. In this case, well, to try to save Austin Sacken is the big thing. So Schwarzburg is going to release Württemberg and take all his troops. We'll figure out what to do with Württemberg in a moment. And on a 1 through 3, I can move. Yay! All right. Let's see what the attrition's going to be. So Schwarzburg doesn't have a whole lot of extra force. 8, 11 extra force. But I'm going to be at the 0 when I reach my march attrition because I'm out of range, which means 2 to 3 I could do. So I'll move 1, 2. That gets me the 3/8 chart with a +1 on a 3 or higher. I take an attrition, and I do. But it's just 1, which, okay, I don't want to take it, but I'll suffer. I don't think I have to roll initiative for a leader moving alone. So I can, and theoretically I had to do this, I think, during the organization phase. But, you know, I'm having enough trouble. I'll never do that, right? I always break my forces up when I'm moving them, but whatever. The game has certain restrictions on stacking, which I brought up before. This is our final disposition after movement. those stacking limitations, if they're violated, you just have to unviolate them immediately, kind of automatically. And the reason that it's so liberal about that is here, for example, Barclay de Tolly, who's got a better initiative, is moving forward to try to cover the gap, specifically this road gap I'm worried about, but I'm also worried about the threat from Victor. And Württemberg's gone over and taken command of one of the cav forces because, well, I don't know. That's actually probably not a great idea because Württemberg's less effective than the cav leader would have been. But it actually transfers it from the army of Silesia over to the army of Bohemia, which is kind of cool, I guess. All right. I want to get him in charge of some infantry at some point. And he'll probably strip some off one of these units because a lot of the units back here are over heavy. The corps are just too big and they're causing me problems because of my low action points and attrition and everything. But anyway, what happened was Barclay de Tolly moved this way, and now he left Yermolov and Lambert together. Well, Yermolov can only command 2 units, as can Lambert, and they both have a subordination of 1, and they each have, well, Yermolov has 1.5 points of units on him. So they can't create a force. So one of them has to pull out of there, and I'm going to send Yermolov over there. And it doesn't hurt anything or whatever. He just, you know, is like, well, I can't stand being around you without Barclay around. It tears me in two. All right. Now we have the French reaction move. And this is kind of interesting because Mortier, of course, wants to slide in here. Oh, I better blow this bridge. Oh, God. If I blow... yeah, blowing the bridge doesn't do me much good at all. Although, I'm not heading that way. So I'm going to try to blow it, even though it's just a minor bridge. So that's a secondary I'm rushing. 1 through 4, I can blow it. Yeah. It may slow the French down. It's not gonna protect me in any way particularly. But yeah, Mortier wants to come down and try to drain maybe some of the attack off of Napoleon. Likewise, well, it's possible Napoleon wants to just get away, for whatever that's worth. And otherwise, we may have units we want to reposition a little bit. Because it looks like the axis of our advance is getting cut off here. Victor's in some danger, etc. Well, the French forced marches or reaction moves, which they feel more like to me, were not terribly effective. The only one that worked was Victor moved a couple hexes to try to get out. But I wanted to get Gerard up into Napoleon's hex. I wanted to get Mortier down here. They just didn't react. I did not pull Napoleon out. He actually made a roll. He was the final roll. Was like, oh boy, I'm kind of up shit's creek here. But he did not make it out either. So there were situations like this during the campaign where nobody was on the French side was doing anything worth crap, although generally it's seen as one of Napoleon's more impressive campaigns overall. Now, I noticed a problem though. Blücher, when I count up his points, he's got 4 that he's got to devote to Schwarzburg. 5 gets me Ulsefeif. 6, 7, 8, 9, and I don't have room for the extra half point that I have under Blücher himself. Now, during administration phase, I don't have any room on these guys to move that cav to. I don't have room under Ulsefeif to move a cav to. But what I do have is the ability to grab... no, because he's only costing me 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to allow... Ulsefeif is not going to be part of the attacking force. He's still allowed to be in the stack. He will be affected by any retreats that come from this, and possibly by the pursuit, depending on who gets pursued. So we'll count up these values and see what happens. I'm not going to do that on screen. I'll just come back with the report of the combat. Napoleon won the battle. He took one hit. I've got a 3-point retreat, and I screwed up last time. You've got to retreat a force as a unit, even if it's multi-hex. And in this case, that meant Schwarzburg, who I thought was going to head this way, ends up going with Blücher and Osten-Sack and further from safety. Okay. For a pursuit, Blücher is my commander that I'm worried about. Now, we still have yucky weather, so we have a modifier to that, but I think Blücher adds 1 to Napoleon's problems. Yeah. And then we have another 1 for the weather. So the pursuit was 3 hexes under Napoleon, and we're at +2. Which puts us to 6. I only get a 2-hex advance, which I'll take. It kind of exposes me, but this was the Allied turn, so I can pull back. That causes 2 casualties to the coalition force. If I'd gotten 3, I'd get another morale bonus off of it, but I do not because it wasn't a major enough victory. Wait a minute. Napoleon fought another battle where he did not match, and this time he fought and did not make it. Anytime he doesn't succeed in winning a battle, it's a -1, I do believe. Forget about that. Yeah. I don't know where morale is. This is how you win the game. It should have been easier to find. Oh no. Crap. Shit. There we go, 17. It's earlier in the rules than the things that affect it. So, effective battle. For each battle, if the enemy force retreats and loses at least 2 strength points more than the French force involved in the battle, the morale change is positive. Anything else, the morale change is negative. So yeah, so we've actually taken 2 lost opportunities for Napoleon, and this is one of them where he's actually hurting morale. He gets a couple more of these where, he doesn't get a decisive victory, or at least a moderate victory. The army starts to fall apart. He's not looking as invulnerable. He's not looking as effective as we would hope. Anyway, I want to cause those 2 hits because, as I said, I can pull back across the river during my own turn. Probably. There's changed from snow to rain, which is a little weird because rain doesn't generate automatic mud. It doesn't. If it did, it would be snow, right? It does. So there may be some lying as to what the weather actually is in any particular turn. Although you would presume that these follow the actual weathers, and there becomes a problem with that. But basically, yeah, the idea that you just had enough snow to cause mud-like problems on the ground, not in terms of the attrition and everything. And now it's raining. That you don't have mud in addition to that rain is hard to accept. We'll try not to think about it. Anyway, looks like we have reinforcements coming, or replacements coming again. Well, observations. First of all, one screw up. I moved the wrong major general. I thought the guy in Sens was the one who had some actual strength points. He just has 1. So it was actually the guy down here at Bonseillon, I don't know, who had the additional forces. So I shifted them and We're a little further back. I had no problem spending a command point to move him either time. And the reason is he can't move any other way. You know, it's really easy to convince myself that I should move that I can spend to move something if I have no other option to do so. This is a problem that hits me in 2038, an XX type game, where you get claims for free with certain companies, but you can buy claims as well on top of that. And I'm always like, well, if I can get it for free, even at a slower rate, I never want to pay for it. And that's how I feel about this. But I've got to kind of change that mindset somewhat, because I've got a decent amount of points here, and I can ensure that I get better opportunities to move in this one. I feel like, at least for the French, they're accumulating points better in this game than they do in most of the Zucker games, or than either any armies do in most of the Zucker games that I played. I've only played a few of them. But that makes it a little easier to actually affect something, which may be one of the strong reasons why I like this one. Because, well, for one thing, I think the others take you up to like 40 administrative points that you can stockpile for the attrition table. And here it's only 11. Well, it's something reminds me of that. Maybe I'm mistaken, but it's real easy to get to the 11 with the French table, at least, with the chart that they give for reinforcements. Of course, they're at home here, and Napoleon was very active during this campaign, so that it's trying to reflect the campaign and the realities of it. But all the same, those factors make it more interesting to me, because I feel like I can actually act and do things. The other observation is more negative, though, which you may have seen a couple of times in, you know, some of my sort of early video for this especially, where I'm constantly counting this long path to somewhere. I guess it's not too bad if you're playing straight through, but the fact that this is exactly 28 points to here is not absolutely clear to me. I can't cross here. Well, actually I can now. I could conceivably get through this way, so maybe Victor's in supply in this direction too. So now I have to count this one, you know. And that's the thing, I have to count and recount, and every time things move, you're less sure of where they are. This is a fundamental problem with the design, is that you do have to keep counting and recounting. How far away are you? Are you in your command radius, you know, of your headquarters? And it's not an easy thing like 4 or 5 hexes. Although it's easier for the Austrians or Prussians than it is for the French, but easier in the sense that those are shorter lines, so you'd never have to count too far. But yeah, if you're operating near the edge of your army's operational radius, you really have this painful mechanical task to do again and again and again. French maneuvers. I did a extended march with Mortier. That's cool because he doesn't have to pay any attrition costs for marching around with those guards, so that's awesome. When it absolutely positively has to get there, you always pay the command point, right? Now I've got Mortier right up against the Russians and Prussians because I want to destroy Blucher. Nah, I roll for Napoleon. You know, I'm such an idiot about stuff like that, but it's like, hey, he's got a 5 and 6. I can't pay a point for that. This would be really bad if I had missed that roll. Over here, Victor ended up booting Gerard, who was unable to get an initiative roll. I was hoping to slide him over here. That's pretty important, perhaps, because Goulet could cut things, but the coalition position would be so undermined if they tried to do that. And I'm counting on being able to clear this road, which kind of reverses it could conceivably reverse the positioning that we're in right now, which is that the coalition's cutting me off from this side. Well, if I break that and turn it the other way, I'm in pretty good shape because I've got supply lines in both directions. Anyway, I've gotten Victor out of his kind of annoying location where he was in some danger. Marmont was unable to move, but he looks pretty safe where he is, at least for a little while. And now we got the big battle, and these can't be combined into one force, so I'm going to be doing an all old guard attack against Blucher, I guess, and Napoleon's going to attack Osten-Sachsen. But there's some chance that we could get out of here. The problem with this is we have to roll these initiatives separately. Now, there's no way Osten-Sachsen can get out of here, but what about Blucher? Maybe. Blucher's a 4 versus Napoleon's 5. That's going to be 2. And 1 for the weather. So I have a 1 I could get out of there. I might as well roll. It doesn't hurt, and then I can make up my mind if I get... I got the 1. All right, do I want to escape with Blucher? My feeling is he's not really protecting Osten-Sachsen at all. But he also doesn't have an easy way out of there. He's got Cav, I think. Yeah. What would a Blucher be without Cav? He's got Cav. That makes this like 4 movement points, but it gets me out, you know. So I think I'm going to try to escape just because Osten-Sachsen really is not going to get any advantage out of this. I'm just getting... On the other hand, I could chew up some old guard. No. The attrition numbers are too high. I can't get out of there. I've got a size 5 force, I think, over on the force march up here. It should be a column higher, right? No, it's not. It's not that bad of weather. If I want to move here, it's 4 movement points into the woods plus 2 for leaving a zone of control. That puts me to 6 movement points. Well, first of all, I don't have that many movement points on a force march. And secondly, that would get me to the 5 attrition table. I can't take that. So, yeah, I'm stuck there with Blucher as well. So we'll have 2 little battles. How to put that? Mortier fails against Blucher. I forgot. Blucher had good old Schwarzenberg under him. So he was a significantly larger force. This is not affecting terrain, luckily. The assumption being you wouldn't actually fight in the woods. Or if you did, it wouldn't necessarily favor the defender. Which I like. I never really... There's some eras where woods is reasonable as a defensive position. It's definitely not terribly useful in the Napoleonic era, I don't think. Except... See, the thing is, in general, it's not. That's not to say you can't find a clearing where you could sit inside the clearing and almost ambush forces as they come breaking through or something like that. But, you know, honestly, I think the possibility of advantages is low enough that you're not going to see too much defensive benefit. But the thing is that woods is probably kind of broken terrain and gives you some edge. Anyway, I'm agnostic on this. So Mortier gets defeated badly, loses 4 units of old guard. You know, this is horrible. On the other hand, Napoleon wins his battle against Osten-Sachsen, and he wins it well enough. You always have to pursue with Napoleon. If you don't pursue, you're going to lose the game, to get the morale back up to 0. I forgot about my penalty for morale in terms of attrition. I don't know if it affected anything. And that looks like that's it over on the French turn. The Allied side of the turn, they kind of start spreading out. They feel like they're probably bigger than most of the French units that are left behind. They know they have a huge numerical superiority overall. And the attrition situation is such that it's better to move just a couple of units. We also got some good die rolls here in terms of the points. The Prussian or the Silesian armies headquarters is active now. And we actually spent a point to move Yuzhin forward, or Asian. And over here, okay, Blucher marched on initiative to go face Napoleon, but then Girard came from all the way back here. Had to roll against an attrition check, but he actually got away. And now he's going to force Blucher to attack him and Osten-Sacken to attack Napoleon. I was hoping to get Mortier up there too. I could try to pull Napoleon out, but, you know, I don't feel like I have the overwhelming advantage, though, that I hoped for with Napoleon battles. So anyway, I'm going to resolve those and come back in a moment. I know I'm cutting the video in different places than I usually do in terms of sometimes I show these battles out, sometimes I don't, sometimes, but I feel like the movement and the maneuver in this game is so important that I have to touch on that, even if it means, you know, giving the combat less shift, or maybe more, in the sense that I'm focusing too much on it, which I've been doing, I think. The big problem, of course, is more videos, more little snatches that I have to stick together. Another one of those mixed results, which kind of remind me of the Wav Cadabra type situation, right? Blucher ends up chasing Girard back. He had the advantage there. It turned out Napoleon had this significant advantage, though, where Osten-Sacken was hitting. And the idea was I was supposed to be hitting with Blucher and Schwarzburg and everything together. And that did not happen. So instead, I got caught by these and actually lost another major battle. Now again, it's a close run thing because Napoleon might not succeed in the pursuit. If he rolled a 5 or a 6, he wouldn't have succeeded, and I would have gone down to a -1 morale instead of going up to a +1. And I had to pursue, and I'm chasing Osten-Sacken up this way. That's actually towards my supply, which is scary. On the other hand, Blucher's chasing Girard back, and there's a real threat to what's going on over here. The French have a fair amount of troops there. In the end, it's not a real threat because Napoleon comes marching back, assuming he can get away from Osten-Sacken. Mortier comes up, Girard comes over. It won't be a problem. It's just I probably will be spending command points on these two to make sure that we try to destroy. That's both the army of Silesia's Blucher and Schwarzburg from the army of Bohemia. That would be a pretty hefty blow as far as I'm concerned, even if, you know, the campaign continues in some other way. So that's actually the end of this turn. Push forward. The Russians have lost a couple of units. Just trying to think of a couple of things. So one of them's over here. One of them I've added to the track over here. And on top of that, we have something else that I was considering. A lot of these games, and this one's included, maybe all of these games, you have to check for attrition even if you don't move. So during the initiative phase, if you didn't move, whatever your stack is going to have to make an attrition check. Usually this is fine if you're in command control, you know, if you're near your center of operations and everything, within command radius of it. If you're outside of it, though, and you have a big force, not moving can cost you. And that's kind of cool, I think. All right. French, unwilling to spend points, and I kind of screwed up. This was, I should have used an administrative march to be moving this thing the big distances. I spent a couple of points where I should have only spent one. Unwilling to spend points. I couldn't guarantee an attack on Blucher, so I just rolled for initiative, and kind of luckily, I wasn't planning on attacking at all, but nobody got an initiative, so, except Napoleon, who's slipping around hitting Osten-Sacken. Now that looks like a dangerous position, because maybe Blucher can run up here. He's too far out of supply. He's not even allowed to force march that far. So, I got kind of lucky there, but even if he had been able to, it probably would have been like a loss of 5 strength points, which wouldn't be pretty. Otherwise, most of the action this turn is actually or on this French turn, is the coalition reacting by and getting some minor movements. So like Württemberg handed off his cav to that cav major general that was here. He's head down here, took some of these Russian troops over. There's no limit on nationality commanders. I mean, there really couldn't be, but this is a little iffy. Is stripping Yermol off of his forces for Württemberg to take. That's probably going beyond what is reasonable. We also have Oudinot coming in. I had this unit kind of tilted off over here. It doesn't. It's supposed to come in, or it was supposed to operate with a major general on the first turn it operates. Somewhere in the errata, I remember it said Oudinot has that unit. That's why I had it tilted up there. So I'm just bringing it in there instead of looking it up again. It's probably not a major issue either way. So yeah, we only have one fight. Happy picks up another morale point, chasing Austin Sacken all over the place. Oh, that's gonna. I don't know. I don't know how much that makes Blucher's job harder, because he wants to head up this way. He was gonna have a hard time extricating Austin Sacken, but now he's in the direction he's wanting to go. There is a bridge, or there are bridges going across the primary river, so we'll be able to continue to retreat towards our support, to our supply source. And it looks like we're getting away here. Napoleon wasn't able to pursue all 5 hexes, only 4 of them. The destroyed Russian infantry pile gets bigger. Those never come back. That's not that big a deal, but what it does mean is you can't spring up units out of nowhere, the fact that they don't come back. So otherwise, you could have a commander walk out and just start cropping up units. But as long you can send a very weak infantry force out somewhere and reinforce the hell out of it, as long as you're within your dispatch distance. So I don't know how different that is, really. The fact that the actual units are destroyed. All right, let's get on to the coalition and see what they're up to. So I guess the big thing is Blucher slipped further away, taking some attrition to do so, but he really has to try to get out of there. Austin Sacken unable to get initiative. Have to clear this road. Both Austin Sacken and Blucher were close to being in command. I think Blucher probably... no, he's not going to be. So they'll still be close, but they're not going to be in it, because the command line had to trace... Actually, it's gotten further around here. Now, Wittgenstein attacked Marmont to try to drive him off the road. Victor came to Marmont's aid. Marmont couldn't leave. However, Wittgenstein got a lucky roll because Marmont's got a command star, and it was just a 1-to-1 attack, and ended up getting a pretty good result, a 1-to-3. However, he couldn't pursue, so because it's snowing out. So it ended up a fairly inconclusive battle, and now Marmont's back where we want. The only problem with this is, of course, Guyon could rebuild the bridge, but he can't come storming across. He could have rebuilt the bridge before anyhow, but now there's enough support, and you got guys like Fremont coming forward as well. So this position here is looking really shaky. And the weird thing is we have this inversion where Blucher's force is behind the French lines. Again, this reminds me of Lee versus Grant. I ended up stuck on the wrong side of Richmond as Lee, and it was as painful as things are for Blucher here. But unlike that situation here, the French, who have Blucher cut off, are being pressured from the other side as well. There's significant force coming, at them from the Silesian army, as well as from the Bohemian army, as well as from the Silesian army. Someday, York will get here and start to repair this bridge. As soon as he does, hey, he's in command and everything, but he's not yet. French side of the turn. First of all, I did an administrative march. I'm going down to Sens, pick up that major general. He's only got like 1 strength point, but there's no reason for, me to have units that far back at this point in the game. especially since I don't have a lot of French strength. So Napoleon's plan here, the first thought was, hey, maybe Victor and Marmont could slip around behind Blucher, get Girard's big force in there, and trash him. Well, that didn't work. I counted the hexes. They couldn't even march that far. So it wasn't going to happen. So instead, I spent points for Mortier, Girard, and this Major General to all combine into a force. Great. Well, Blucher managed to slip away, and even perhaps more dangerous, Napoleon failed to get his initiative, so he didn't pin Austin-Sachsen. So there was some possibility, even if Blucher didn't slip away, that Austin-Sachsen could come down here, force the Major General to attack here, and have, you know, a more fair battle. But I wanted to get Blucher out of there, and Schwarzburg. I also want to put more pressure on this, but Gyulai is close to the edge of that Bohemian supply range, which is just so terribly small. I'm going to have to move that headquarters forward, but it's just so slow and so painful a process to get that going. Right now, I can't afford to. I need the mobility. I need to get the Silesian army up into this general area. Morvilliers, I don't know. I'm trying to remember. I think this is. I'm trying to look for things that were on the other map so I can kind of see where the 6 days map was. I guess it's on this. I could pull down the 6 days map to look. The problem is some of these names look, you know, similar to me, and I don't actually remember which river that was on. Is that on the Marne, or is it down on one of these others? And I am just not seeing. You know, when I look at the names, oh wait, there it is. Wow. So that's going to be centered around here in general. Oh, there's a Tolgis. That was pretty big as well. So that probably cuts around here. We're not there yet. Okay, Austrian side of the turn, and some interesting stuff happened here. Nothing over here. Napoleon, Mortier, etc., did not want to react. They like the position they're in. There's no easy shift that they could see. So leaving themselves where they are seems fine. The other side of things, though, was here where okay, so this is the time of the game, as I wander and meander about whatever it is I end up saying, where where the French, strangely not, okay, where the French are starting to get on a better chart. They get on the very best chart starting February 11th. The early part of the game, they're on the worst chart. The further to the left you are on the administrative chart, the worse it is. On the other hand, both the Silesians and Bohemians are still on kind of a crappy chart. They get a little better and a little bit more serious about pursuing the war. Now, there's something a little weird about that because that's when the activity's happening, but honestly, because you can bank points, if you hit the best chart, that may not be when you actually are active, whatever, but it depends on your own psychology and everything. But anyway, actually both sides ended up with some decent points here. The French had a fair amount, but they spent them on their attack against Blucher. However, both Austria and Prussia are now in the, hey, we can operate on the best attrition chart, basically, at this point. It's not as good as the French because the French get a bonus for just being French, and in their home country. It's strange, though, because the other games in the system, I think, give you the same advantage, even though the French aren't in their home country. But anyway. So what we had was Barclay de Tolly and Fremont combined to attack Victor. Wittgenstein came over, and this was down in this area here, these two hexes, I think. Wittgenstein went and attacked Marmont. Neither one could disengage. They both got hit, and the pursuit was not that impressive, but still, you know, it was bigger than the losses they took. And then Gyulai here actually repaired the bridge. York was unable to, and now we have Kleist coming on the board with a really huge force that I feel like I had to split up because the attrition rates would be atrocious otherwise. So I've got this guy who could not make initiative. Kleist doesn't have to. I'm making up rolls here, but basically the whole force comes on the board and has a movement order for the first turn, but if I recall correctly, I don't know. But given that, I said, well, I can't move the whole force, so I'll leave the one behind, but if he makes an initiative, he'll keep moving. So, yeah, once the bridge is cleared, these guys will be in command from here, I believe. And then we can actually start operating Blucher's force, if he can get out of here, you know. And then likewise, this force is beginning to, well, has succeeded in really blowing the French back. So at this point, the French don't really have enough troops to do much. But if I can trap Blucher and beat him up, that's a worthwhile goal. If I can cost more losses. But something like this was just unacceptable from the French point of view. I guess this is about time to send this one up. Let me check the date. It is, looks like February 6th.